Hey there, baby. Smoker's chugging. We got ribs. These are beef ribs, prime beef ribs from my Amish butcher on the smoker today. Stick with me, baby. We'll see how they turn out. Got two little logs on there. The coal bed kind of burned down pretty quick. I've been using this garbage Royal Oak instead of the B&B. B&B lasts a long time, gives you a decent coal bed, and then as you add logs, you keep the coals from the logs. And the Royal Oak kind of, I don't know, fizzles. And I didn't use a ton of it because I didn't want to overheat the smoker in the beginning. Anywho, keeping around, trying to keep around 225. I don't know if you can see that, but we're getting around there. Gotta adjust the damper in a second. We've had the ribs on for, I don't know, 45 minutes or so. Starting to get a little bit of color, but just warming up, you know, getting that little sweat on them. Let the everything soak in. I only put the seasonings on the top and not the sides and everything this time, just to see what it would come out like. And we got pepper, garlic, little celery seed, some Aleppo pepper, and we're I don't know, I salted it last night, so I did what people call dry brining, I guess, where took it out of the freezer in the morning, let it thaw. It was still very, very cold, probably frozen in the middle still. But before I went to bed, I salted it really, really good with kosher salt, and then wrapped it back up in its wrapper and put it in a cooler that had ice and a bunch of other stuff in it. And I put this rest of the seasonings on this morning, about maybe an hour before I put it on the smoke. So we'll see how it turns out. I'm hoping for the best, but kind of really wanted like the meat generally to have like that salt and smoke flavor, and then the seasonings that are just on top, they're pretty heavy. The crushed black pepper, the garlic powder, the celery seed, and the Aleppo pepper. You know, as you take your piece of rib and then you make slices of the chunk, you'll have that one edge that's like really seasoned, and the middle should taste like beef, which is what I'm trying for. So we'll see how it turns out. I'll keep you posted. It's 10:30 in the morning, so it's only been on for about an hour and a half, but we're already starting to see a little pullback from the bones and a little bit of nice color. So I'm pretty optimistic. I don't know how long it's going to take. It's not terribly hot yet. It's only 85 degrees, but it's like 173% humidity outside right now. So, okay, so we're right around our temperature we've been following. I just threw some logs in there. Let's take a look and see what the meat looks like. Oh yeah, got some nice pullback and some good color. I'll tell you the secret, I just gave it a spritz right before this, so that's why it looks nice and moist. I'm trying to keep it so that it doesn't get overly crusty, but it's going to cook nice. Probably should have trimmed it a little bit. I got a big chunk of fat right there that was on top. Hopefully that'll render out real nice. If not, oh well. Gave her a spin so I could put the thermometer. Whoop, got a little steam coming up there. So I could put the thermometer in the thick part of the meat. And look how pretty. Getting a little pullback on the small side of the bone. She's squinching up a little bit, so all that crust on top is looking nice. But yeah, look at that color. Oof. Okay, there's where our temperatures are at. Top is the smoke chamber. The bottom is the meat. So we're getting within spitting distance of being done. I haven't wrapped it yet. Still like the way that it's looking now. Look how pretty that color is. And I'm smoking this on maple today. Been burning nothing but maple except for the original few, you know, maybe half a dozen or dozen blocks from bag of lump charcoal. I'm going to close that up so that we can keep our temperatures good. Actually, I'm probably going to give it a little spritzy just to keep it moist. It looks pretty moist. And I don't think I'm going to even get to wrap this one today because it just doesn't need it. It's not building bark like super heavy, and it's not drying out. and our temperature's not really far away from where it's going to end up before I finish. But it looks nice. I'm going to check my fire now. We're going to open her up and take a little look-see. I'm getting up to 195 degrees internal. Oh yeah, she's still looking nice. Starting to really get chunky there. That top looks good. I should take this top shelf out so I can get better pictures. And I think it's time to put some more water in there. Let's give her a little spritz. Using the apple cider vinegar and water mixture that I see recommended on YouTube. Oh, that looks lovely. I think these are going to be delicious. All right, that look-see that we just had, we're rolling up on 5.5 hours. I put the meat on at 9 o'clock this morning, and it's about 25 minutes after 2. We're looking at an internal temperature of 195 degrees, so we still have a little ways to go. Plus, when I get, over 200, I'm going to start probing it with a instant read just to see, where it's at in different spots. But the meat's pretty thick. It kind of squinches up and it grows in height, but shrinks in all other dimensions. So, I don't know. It's kind of interesting. We'll see what happens. But the color looks really, really good. And I touched it before to see if the bark was setting, and it's still a little wet because that fat is still rendering and dripping off the outside. And of course, when you have a greasy finger, you have to clean it somehow, and ooh, it tasted good. I'm going around about 6 hours and 45 minutes, and my temperature isn't really climbing too much. It's kind of topped out, but it was running a little low, and if you see that one dark log on the left, I had put one log on a really nice coal bed, thinking that it would catch. I got it caught, and I closed down my damper and shut the door, and I was watching my temperatures hovering around 215, 218. I was like, good enough. I started to drop a little bit, went down to about 210 degrees, and I come out here and the coals are all gone and the log is smoldering and there's not really much to light. So I put in the other big log that you saw on the right, and I figured that maybe wasn't enough, even though it finally lit. I left the door open for a while, got it lit, got the smoke clean, and I put in 2 smaller logs on either side of that one really black big log, just to see if I could get it to really, really genuinely catch. And I want that bad boy to burn down and become coals, and then who knows, maybe I won't even need any more wood because we're within a few degrees of our what will be our final temperature. So anyway, let's take a look inside. Oh yeah, look how pretty. When they say mahogany, that's the color right there. And I took out this annoying shelf up here so I could get a better look at the meat. Look how nice that top looks. Now that the meat's all shrunk up, that part that used to be 3 or 4 inches wider in each dimension shrunk up nice, and looks like it's got a nice, I'm losing a little bit, but it's just because it's just sitting there. But my finger's greasy but dry, so I think that bark is more or less set. Wrapping it now would just be a waste of my time. I don't think it needs it, but I'm going to give her one more little spritz, and I think this might be the last spritz of the day, just to make it pretty and shiny for you guys. And we'll see what we got. But that red color, that smoke ring, that's just the outside of the meat. When I cut this open, I expect it to extend quite a ways in, and I'm pretty sure it's going to look pretty beautiful. So we're going to go up, I don't know, once it gets over 200, I'll start measuring it with the instant read and probing it for tenderness. I can see that my probe that I have in here is kind of drooping. I wasn't doing that before, so the meat is kind of loosening up a little bit. And once I get over, like I said, over 200, we'll temperature probe and probe for tenderness until we get to our final temperature, which who knows what that'll be. I think the last one of these that I did, it was up around 206, before it really got tender. And you know, I wouldn't mind as long as it's done and the fat's rendered properly, and it's got a good good crust on it, good bark, and good flavor. Whatever it takes. Okay, folks, we're at about 7 hours and 40 minutes. I've been working on these ribs, and look how pretty. So anyway, a couple things. One is, you noticed before I had my probe in, and instead of having it into the middle of the meat, I believe I had it right down next to the bone. And I'm pretty sure if you know, what I hear is true, that bones can actually transmit the heat a little better. So I was getting a false high reading. When I probed it with the instant read, the closer to the bone I was, the closer to 199, 198 degrees I was. But the closer I was to the crust here, I was down 170, 179 degrees. And it was slipping in and out pretty good, but a lot of that I think is because there's a fair amount of fat in there, and a lot of times you're slipping in, you're not really hitting a lot of meat, you're hitting the soft fat that separates the layers of the meat, or the fat cap, or whatever. So I'm still letting it go, but I did reinsert my probe to be more in the center, and as you can see, whereas we were just almost touching 200 degrees before, now we're at 193.1. So I'm going to keep letting her go and watch her get beautiful, glossy. Maybe give her a little spritzaroo. Look how pretty that is. Wow. I think these are going to be delicious. When I finally take these out, I'm going to wrap them in some butcher paper, and I'm going to kind of let them rest for a little while, maybe half hour, 45 minutes, and then slice in them and eat them up. Yum. Here they are getting ready to be wrapped up and rested, but look how pretty they are. Man, those are some good looking ribs. Gonna be tender. Okay, people, here we go. We have the final product. So I am not sure why, but the bones look uneven, like the meat pulled them in different directions. So I don't know what causes that, but we're gonna have to give it a go at trying to slice it. I need both my hands, so I'm going to turn the camera off, and when you come back you'll see it sliced up. Okay, so there is great large chunks of fat inside this meat, which is strange. I normally see a row of meat and then a thin layer of fat and then another row of meat and then the gristle and then the bone, but this has these big gobs of fat here, so I don't know. But they're very gelatinous. This is all fat. That makes me feel bad. Anyway, there's still quite a bit of meat. I have to eat around the fat. But there we have it. I have our beautiful red smoke ring. And feels nice and tender. It should be good.